You're at the supermarket, and suddenly you forget what you came to buy. You pull the list out of your pocket, but even reading it, it takes effort to understand. You bump into a neighbor you've known for 20 years, and his name simply slips out of your head, like water through a sieve. At home, you open the refrigerator and stand there staring, not remembering why. You turn on the television, and 5 minutes later, you have no idea what you were watching. That night, you tell your daughter on the phone, half laughing, half scared. I think I'm going senile. I'm forgetting the neighbors' names. She laughs too, reassures you. It's just age, Mom. Everyone forgets things. But deep down, you know something isn't right. That this didn't happen at 50. That every memory lapse is more frequent, more frustrating, harder to hide. And the worst fear, the one you don't say out loud, is the word that haunts every family with an elder: dementia. If you're over 60 and this scene feels familiar, stay with me for the next 15 minutes. Because what I'm about to tell you is not a memory trick, not a crossword puzzle, and not a mysterious pharmacy capsule. It's the most abundant structural nutrient in your brain, confirmed by science for 30 years, and 80% of people over 60 do not consume enough of it. I'm Dr. Kevin Vries. Over more than 15 years, caring for patients over 60 with memory complaints, forgetfulness, and brain fog, I've seen one pattern repeat so many times in my office, it became routine. Intelligent, active people, retired teachers, business owners, accountants, who suddenly began forgetting appointments, losing the thread of a conversation, no longer able to finish a book. People who had been taking Ginkgo biloba for 5 years without noticing any difference. People who do crosswords, Sudoku, memory games on their phone, and still feel their brain is slowing down. People who go to the neurologist, get an MRI, normal exam, and walk out hearing, it's natural brain aging. But natural aging is not destiny. There is a specific nutrient, dirt cheap relative to what it delivers, confirmed by the most robust scientific research as the main component of your brain's physical structure. And the majority of seniors worldwide are chronically deficient without knowing it. The name of that nutrient is omega-3, more specifically the two marine forms, EPA and DHA. Here's a fact that may surprise you. Studies published in highly credible journals like the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease and the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition have shown something striking. The human brain is composed of approximately 60% fat. And within that fat, the most abundant and structurally important component is DHA. In other words, DHA is not a good supplement for the brain. It is literally the brick with which your brain wall was built. Without enough DHA, the membranes of your neurons become rigid, lose flexibility, and communication between neurons slows down. And the worst part is that this deficiency masks itself, once again, as what we call normal aging. Forgetting names? It's age, ma'am. Trouble finishing a book? Losing the thread? Lack of concentration? Heavy head in the morning, slow to start? You're sleeping poorly. Dry skin, peeling, brittle nails, dull hair? Menopause stuff. Sadness without cause, easily irritated, no patience? You need a vacation. Diffuse joint pain, especially in the morning. Age. All of this can have the same root cause, chronic marine omega-3 deficiency. And the reason this deficiency is so common today is structural. Our modern diet swapped fatty cold water fish, sardines, mackerel, salmon, anchovy, for red meat, chicken, and soybean oil. The omega-6 to omega-3 ratio of our grandparents' diet was around 4-to-1. Today it's 20-to-1, sometimes 30-to-1. An evolutionary mismatch nature didn't anticipate, and your brain pays the price. What do most people do when they start feeling forgetful at 60? They go to the pharmacy and buy Ginkgo biloba, or buy a Memory Plus capsule with 20 ingredients in tiny doses each. Or start taking flaxseed, having heard it's the vegetal omega-3. Or buy any generic fish oil, big bottle, dirt cheap, from the grocery store. And all 4 paths have the same problem. Either they don't fix the deficiency, or they fix it badly. For healthy seniors, Ginkgo has weak evidence for cognition. Memory Plus capsules contain homeopathic doses of each ingredient. A little bit of everything, but not enough of anything to work. Flaxseed contains the plant form of omega-3 called ALA, which has to be converted into DHA inside the body. In healthy young adults, that conversion is low, around 5%. In a person over 60, with reduced liver function and less efficient conversion enzymes, it drops to less than 1%. In other words, you eat 3 tablespoons of flaxseed a day thinking you're protecting your brain, and your body converts almost none of it into cerebral DHA. And worst of all, generic pharmacy fish oil. Here the problem is triple: low EPA plus DHA dose per capsule, dubious oil quality, and most importantly, rancidity. Fish oil oxidizes very fast. When the oil passes a certain oxidation level, measured by an index called TOTOX, it stops being anti-inflammatory and starts being pro-inflammatory. So you take it thinking you're helping, but you're adding fuel to the inflammation, aging your brain. Taking the wrong supplement is like building a wall with cardboard bricks. It looks like a wall, but the first wind takes it down. Here's a detail almost no one notices. Picture your brain as a giant city of 100 billion neurons. Each neuron is a house, and each house must talk to thousands of neighboring houses, so you can remember the neighbor's name, this week's appointment, the way to the market. That conversation between neurons happens at structures called synapses, and the speed depends directly on one thing: the flexibility of each neuron's membrane. Flexible membrane, fast conversation. Rigid membrane, slow conversation. What gives the membrane its flexibility? DHA. Imagine a plastic bag from the fridge. At room temperature, it's flexible, folds easily. Put it in the freezer, it gets hard, cracks, loses its function. Your neuron's membrane works the same way. Enough DHA, like the bag at room temperature. Supple, alive, conducting well. Not enough DHA, like the bag in the freezer. Rigid, brittle, conducting poorly. And that's not all. DHA is also raw material for the production of resins and protectins, molecules that extinguish inflammation inside the brain. Without enough DHA, any small cerebral inflammation becomes chronic, and chronic brain inflammation is what science calls neuroinflammation, the number one trigger identified in post-mortem brains of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's patients. So omega-3 deficiency doesn't just leave you forgetful, it leaves your brain in a chronic inflammatory state, with no material to repair, no tool to put out the internal fire. It's chemistry, and the solution is also chemistry. Now comes the part that matters: how to actually fix this. Pay close attention to this point. Not every omega-3 works. There are 3 critical points that decide whether the supplement works or whether it's wasted money. First point, the chemical form. 2 main forms dominate the market, and the difference is huge. The first is ethyl ester, abbreviated EE. It's the cheapest form to manufacture, what comes in most generic supplements. The body absorbs that form very poorly, about 40 to 50% less than the natural form. The second is triglyceride, or re-esterified triglyceride, abbreviated TG or RTG. That's the natural form, identical to the one in fish, and it's absorbed 50 to 70% better. Always look for TG, triglyceride form, or RTG on labels. Second point, EPA plus DHA concentration per capsule. Generic pharmacy supplements typically contain 180 milligrams of EPA plus 120 of DHA, only 300 milligrams total. To reach the therapeutic dose of 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams per day in someone over 60, you'd need 6 capsules, and even then, with poor absorption. Look for a supplement with at least 600 to 800 milligrams of EPA plus DHA per capsule. 1 or 2 capsules, and you're at the right dose. Third point, and almost no one talks about this, is oil freshness, measured by the TOTOX index. TOTOX below 26 indicates fresh oil. Above that, the oil is already oxidizing and turns pro-inflammatory. Serious brands publish their TOTOX in a certificate of analysis or guarantee third-party purity testing. And for those with fish allergy or vegetarians, algae oil is an excellent alternative, with pure DHA from marine algae, actually the original source the fish itself eats, with research-grade quality. Before I tell you exactly how to take it and the story of a patient who completely turned around in 2 months, do me one quick thing. If this video has been helping you understand something nobody explained clearly before, click the subscribe button below. Subscribing is free, and it helps me a lot to keep bringing you serious, science-based information without pushing products that don't work. You can resume the video now, because what's coming is the practical protocol that may bring you mental clarity in the first 6 to 8 weeks of use. Let's get practical. The recommended dose of marine omega-3 for someone over 60 with cognitive complaints or for prevention is 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams of combined EPA-DHA per day. Some cognition studies use 2,000 to 3,000, and mood studies 1,000 to 2,000. How to take it? Split into 2 doses, morning and evening, always with a meal that contains fat. Breakfast with eggs, lunch with olive oil, dinner with fish or chicken. Without fat in the meal, omega-3 absorption is cut in half. If you get fish-tasting burps, freeze the capsules in the freezer before taking them. It delays the breakdown in the stomach and eliminates the symptom. I had a patient, a 68-year-old gentleman I treated, retired business owner, complaining of progressive forgetfulness for 3 years. He'd already had an MRI, cognitive tests, all at the lower end of normal, but no formal disease. His wife was worried. He himself was depressed, fearing dementia was starting. He'd been taking Ginkgo for 2 years with no effect. I ordered the omega-3 index in red blood cells, a test that measures the actual DHA in red blood cell membranes, an indirect marker of brain concentration. His value was 4%. The ideal for his age is above 8%. I started marine omega-3 RTG, 2,000 milligrams of EPA plus DHA per day, along with vitamin D3 and sublingual B12. In 6 weeks, he came back with his wife and said a phrase I'll never forget. "Doctor, I'm reading books again. I'd given up 2 years ago." In 3 months, he went back to his neighborhood book club, started writing letters to his grandchildren again, and said the morning fog had basically disappeared. I see this in my practice frequently. It's not magic, it's corrected biochemistry. The effect tends to appear between weeks 6 and 12, because neuronal membrane renewal isn't fast. It takes time to swap a cardboard brick for a real one. And to amplify the effect, there's what I call the brain multiplier trio. Marine omega-3 alone already works very well. But for full cognitive protection, you add 2 specific allies. First ally, vitamin D3, dose 2,000 international units per day alongside vitamin K2 in MK7 form. D3 is not just for bones. It has receptors in nearly every neuron and regulates expression of genes tied to neuroprotection. In epidemiological studies, D3 deficiency doubles the risk of cognitive decline at 70. Second ally, the active B complex, especially methylcobalamin B12 and active folate, which lower homocysteine, a molecule toxic to neurons. I made an entire video about sublingual B12 for chronic fatigue and neurological protection in seniors over 60. I'll leave the link above and in the description. Third component, magnesium bisglycinate at night, around 300 to 400 milligrams. Magnesium improves sleep quality, and during deep sleep, the brain runs its cleanup called the glymphatic system, clearing toxic proteins like beta amyloid. This trio, omega-3, vitamin D3 plus K2, active B12, combined with magnesium at night, is the modern nutritional foundation for cognitive protection in those over 60. Here's what nobody tells you. When you correct an omega-3 deficiency that's been present for years, you don't just improve memory. You also lower blood triglycerides by 20 to 30%, mildly to moderately lower blood pressure, reduce chronic joint pain, improve hydration of skin and eye mucous membranes, stabilize mood and reduce depressive symptoms, reduce mild anxiety, improve sleep quality, and reduce systemic inflammation measured by C-reactive protein. It's not one thing, it's a system. It's not a memory capsule. It's the structural brick of half your brain and the chemical partner of nearly every inflammatory function in your body. Now, some important warnings, because I have responsibility when I speak to you. Marine omega-3 is an extremely safe supplement, but 3 situations call for attention. First, if you take an anticoagulant, especially warfarin, but also newer ones like apixaban and rivaroxaban, or if you take daily aspirin in high doses. Omega-3 in high doses has a mild blood thinning effect. At normal doses, 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams, the risk is small, but talk to the doctor who prescribed your anticoagulants before starting. Second situation, if you have surgery scheduled in the next few weeks, stop omega-3 7 to 10 days before the procedure to avoid increased bleeding, and resume a week after. Third, fish or shellfish allergy. Don't take fish oil. Go straight to algae oil, which is pure marine DHA without fish protein, with the same benefit. For everyone, before starting, the ideal is to test the omega-3 index in red blood cells if possible. I left a link in the description below to a marine omega-3 from a reputable source with the right EPA plus DHA dose in well-absorbed TG form, low TOTOX, and third-party purity testing. If you'd like to take a look, just click below the video. Also, there's a QR code appearing on screen now for my previous video on sublingual methylcobalamin B12 for chronic fatigue after 60. If you haven't seen it, point your phone camera at this QR code now. It takes you straight to the video. The 2 supplements work together in the brain. Omega-3 is the brick of your neuron's wall, and B12 is the electrician who runs the current between them. Without the material, you don't build. Without the current, you don't use what you've built. Look, I'd like to close this video by saying something important. Forgetting your neighbor's name at 65 is not the start of dementia. But it can be the start of a deficiency that, left untreated for 10 years, raises the risk of severe cognitive decline by 50%, according to robust research. Forgetting is not destiny. Brain fog is not destiny. Heavy head in the morning is not destiny. Sadness without cause is not destiny. All of this can be, and in a huge share of cases is, marine omega-3 deficiency, a nutrient that costs less than a cup of coffee a day to correct. I've seen patients go back to reading books, back to writing letters, back to teaching as volunteers, back to chess club, back to writing the family's memories. Mental clarity at 70 is not a luxury, it's a right. If this video opened your eyes, do me 3 things. First, tell me below in the comments, do you feel forgetful or foggy? For how long? Have you ever taken omega-3? Which brand? I read every comment, and it helps me make more videos about what you need. Second, if you haven't subscribed yet, click that red button below. It's free. Third, send this video to someone in your family who's starting to forget things. It may be the most useful thing you do for that person in the next 5 years. I'm Dr. Kevin Vries, and as I always say at the end of every video, take good care of yourself.